Without the term AI, it looks incomplete.
Yes.
With all the coaching, with all this upskilling that's happening, what do you think that which skills should product leaders should develop in today's world of AI to stay relevant?
But it's still such a niche and bubble topic, right? All of us are obviously talking about AI for ages, it feels. But when I'm talking to the product leaders in product leadership roles, I hardly see AI having an impact on the roadmaps, which I find shocking. So I have so many conversations and even networking conversations at events. So not only with my clients, everybody's like, yeah, I need to wrap my head around it at some times. But frankly speaking, there's so many fires that I'm currently have to fight. So I leave the AI stuff for later. And I think it has never been more dangerous than now, or it never has been more likely to get out of business because of your competition outcompeting you performance wise if they jump on the AI train and leverage some of the advantages that AI may have. There is a big obsession with certificates, and I think that applies for a lot of the rest of the world as well, right? So we always focus on the certificates and the studies and the research and all these kind of things, and Germany in particular, right? As soon as you have your certified Scrum product owner certificate, you're basically a product person. But we all know it's not that easy. So a big part of my work is to convince people that it's not enough to read that book. You need to really develop that skill. And that's different in product management, right? It's amazing if you read all the books, but still you need to find something where you could apply and really make you know how to become a skill. You need to train the muscle. That's a message that I'm sending a lot here in Germany, because it's oftentimes it's certificate done and dusted. So all our people are skilled. Let's move on. Yeah.
Product communities dealt with this whole communities of practice. How do we make them successful? Because there are competing priorities within product organization. There are APMs who want to grow up, there are PMs who want to learn fast, and then there are product leaders who want to impart knowledge or their version of best practices.
Communities are all about empowering the people to do the work. So we don't want to do this work for them. We help them to have their learning headlines, and then we tell them, go invest in yourself, or find allies, or find your peers that have similar challenges. And then it's still fine for me as a leadership person if they come back and say like, hey Petra, we don't do this together because one learns from a conference, the other one wants to go to a certificate class, and I just want to read a book. And then we again meet 3 months down the line to see what worked best or something like that. And I think this is the important part where a lot of leadership people kill momentum by then enforcing their own idea of how things have to unfold on the people. And then you basically kill the entire community, right? So let people do their thing.
So before we go to the coaching question, and we definitely want to talk a lot about it, but Petra, strong product people came out at a time when we were looking at a few academic books, and this was very refreshing. Do people still come to you at Product at Heart? Do people come to you and ask for your autograph? Does that happen a lot?
They actually did last year. Last year we did a bit of a book signing thing because so many authors were present just by accident. So Christina Wodke decided to join us an attendee, and yeah,
Okay.
so many, and Jeff Gottlieb decided to join us an attendee, and all of them were like, "Can we bring some books?" And we were like,
Oh
"Yeah,
my
okay."
goodness, Jeff was there.
Yeah, Jeff was there. But we
Ah,
thought it's really weird if these thought leaders running around our conference handing out books to random people. So we thought, okay, let's do it. Let's make a thing out of it. And so at the end of the conference, we basically asked all the authors we knew were there. Martin Erickson was there, and all the people that were having books. We asked them if they want to bring some, and then we do a big signing session. And then everybody was like, "But Petra, then you should join as well." And I thought, like, "Oh, that's weird as a conference organizer because wearing these two hats." But they convinced me, and it was a really lovely experience to hear. So some people really came with 1 million sticky notes in my book, and really a lot
wow.
of highlights in the text. And so it was so cool to see how worn down some of these books were. So they really were put to heavy use. It was really, really heartwarming. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yes, we've loved the book, and I have seen this book on a lot of shelves here. So put it up in a really nice context. So just a fan moment there.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to hear. I love it. I love to see you travel the world. That's
Yeah.
good.
I wish I could get your signature right from here. When I think
We need to
digitally
do
now.
this one day.
Yeah, the technology
love
needs to
to.
get better.
I
You
love
just
it.
sign and it appears on here.
It's not yet working remotely.
The communities across, I've seen that, when in the Product Tank Pune community or in the Bangalore or any other community, new PMs regularly ask for, hey, could you recommend me a few books? And after the, inspired trilogy, that's definitely Petra there. And yeah. And
Yeah, and I would love more leaders to use it in coaching situations, right? So, and hopefully that's something that the book changed to some extent already, is that leadership, it's harder for product leadership people to get away without coaching. Let's put it like that.
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
everybody is more aware of, hey, coaching is part of your job. Marty does a great job in emphasizing this over and over again. That's basically all what Empowered is all about, right? My book is kind of
Yes.
saying the exact same things. And then there are others, for example, Julie Zhu from the design background side is saying the same thing. So I think it's important that we re-emphasize this message of you need a blueprint for what a good product person looks like, and you need to coach them towards excellence, because otherwise, what's your job, product leadership people? So I think that's actually good that this message is landing.
So you've been in your book and in your work as well, you've emphasized a lot of this communities of practice. You've mentioned that product management has to be done through this certain mechanism to build strong product management practice within the organization. What kind of sparked your interest into doing this?
That's another amazing question. So the story basically is, in many of my coaching sessions with product leadership people, they were so short in time. So it was really like, okay, but when should I coach all my product people? How should I do this? My schedule is already packed. So looking at me as their coach, helping them figure out where they can squeeze out a bit of time in their calendar to make sure they can have this one-on-one conversations. And over time, we figured that none of them is leveraging a good community of practice. And I knew how much of a time saver this could be from one of my earlier jobs at Xing, it's a similar thing to what LinkedIn is these days. It's a business network. And I was working for that organization. That's actually where Marty was my product coach for quite some time. And we had a really strong and vibrant product community of practice. And so all of us were constantly trying out new things, sharing how it went, demoing this new framework and how it helped us. Onboarding was all done by the community of practice. So none of the product leadership people actually spent a lot of time in onboarding the new joiners. Of course, they had expectation conversations when people joined, but then the real onboarding was happening a lot in our community of practice. We even had guidelines for how to onboard new people. And we always just then had the conversation, okay, who is going and running with it in person? But in general, it was a responsibility from the community of practice. And then learning that a lot of product leaders have never heard of communities of practice, really literally, they have never heard of the concept, was mind-boggling to me. And then the ones that heard of the concept never thought about starting one in their own organization. And then the next layer of, I need to start writing about it, was then they started to use community of practice, but they started in such a technical, theoretical, conceptual way, and not starting from the human being again. So then where I thought like, yeah, okay, but you have already these small pockets of communities of practice, because I bet there have been 10 developers at the same conference, or these 5 product people reading the same book. You just need to make sure that they share the learnings with a broader set of people. So, and that was the motivation. And this book didn't start as a book project. This book started as a series of blog posts, and the book, and they're all available on my blog.
That's something we didn't know. So that's
you can read
that's a nugget for our readers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all there for free. But the book is just a result, because people at some point in my coaching started, okay, but can you please send me a PDF with all the information? I don't want to read it on the blog.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, okay, but if I create a PDF, then why not putting it on Amazon so that people can order a proper book? So that's why product, and it's so thin. You saw it. It's a super short read. because there's only so much you can say about a product community of practice. But that was the reason for printing that book. And I said it's all on the blog. It was a series of interviews and blog posts about clients that did it well. And since I launched the book, I helped quite a few clients to start their communities of practice. And that's so much fun because communities.
Yeah. So you were coached by Marty.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah.
Wow. And was Nacho also there with you at Zing when you were there, or was he
No,
after you? Nacho Pacino.
I think Nacho joined. So I left Xing at 2011 already. I think Nacho joined 10 years after or something like that. So no, I know Nacho because he was an early reviewer for Strong Product People. When I asked the internet who wants to review the book, Nacho said like, I would love to. He still was based in Mexico back at the time before
Yeah.
relocating to Europe. But ever since we're in touch, yeah, the product world is so small.
Yeah.
And also very much fast in pace, isn't it? Like with nowadays, and community of practices or coaching requires space. However, it might be also mistaken by, hey, you're slowing things down, or it's not working, the ROI is not clear. How do you defend such arguments where coaching is necessary? How do you even defend that?
I rarely have to. So the biggest blocker why people are not doing coaching is because they're missing this blueprint where they're coaching people to, basically. So as soon as, and that's why I created the product management wheel and just recently the product leadership wheel, because as soon as they have something that they can use to then create their version, their definition of good, what good looks like and competent product people look like, that unblocks most of the product leaders because that streamlines the coaching a lot. If you have an assessment, then it's less personal. Then you say like, hey, look, I'm using the same assessment to all of the product people in this organization. We then have one-on-one conversations on the stuff that you are not good at yet. So it's not a personal shortcoming then. It's just, there are 20 things to learn and let's pick one or two to focus on for the next 3 to. So it's not that people don't want to invest in coaching. What oftentimes blocks them is this, I don't have a framework to make it efficient, and I don't have a framework to make it less time consuming, and therefore I don't do it because I don't feel well educated and well equipped to do it. And as soon as they have that, and that's, for example, why I published the product management wheel prior to the book for free as well. So you don't even have to buy the book to use the product management wheel, because I wanted people to have no excuse to say like, I cannot coach my people because where should I coach them towards? And I'm like, yeah, at least there is and that's another thing. I have a big list of other assessments on my blog as well, because there are other amazing. So Ravi Mehta has an amazing framework that you could use. Marty has an assessment that you could use. So there are so many other definitions of what a good product person looks like, and use whatever version works best in your context, but you need to have that. And as soon as you have that, coaching is not the biggest deal. And it's not hard to convince people to do it because they know that to some extent it will improve their life, their product organization. Because let's face it, a product leader's role and life is easier with competent product people around, right? So I don't have to convince them. I just have to convince them once to make the effort to define what good looks like, and then invest a bit in their coaching skills. But coaching skills, let's face it, it's mainly good questions. So I helped them to formulate their set of questions that they could use in one-on-one conversations. And that's basically all they need to get started with the coaching habit. It's not that complicated once you have this initial definition of.
And also, most of the communities that you have formed, Petra, has been in Europe largely. And because I lived most part of my education and as a PhD in Germany, I know that Germany has a deep-rooted academia and as well as formal education. And how does this influence the formation and evolution of a community?
Yeah, that has a big impact on it. So the thing is, and that's maybe another reason why my book had to be written by me. There is a big obsession with certificates, and I think that applies for a lot of the rest of the world as well, right? So we always focus on the certificates and the studies and the research and all these kind of things, and Germany in particular, right? As soon as you have your certified Scrum product owner certificate, you're basically a product person. But we all know it's not that easy. So a big part of my work is to convince people that it's not enough to read that book. You need to really develop that skill. And that's different in product management, right? It's amazing if you read all the books, but still you need to find something where you could apply and really make your know-how to become a skill. You need to train the muscle. And that is a message that I'm re-emphasizing so often, especially here in Central Europe, Germany. It's not enough to send your people to a training, because what you get from a training is know-how, which is cool. For example, if you want all your people to learn about AI regulations, that is know-how. So send them to a training. They learn about what can be learned about right now about the topic. By product management, let's face it, that's a skill, that's competencies. You need to build them over time. You need to practice. And that's a message that I'm sending a lot here in Germany, because it's oftentimes it's certificate done and dusted. So all our people are skilled. Let's move on. Yeah. So that's definitely something the conversation that I'm having quite often. You're right.
I hope you don't see that, strong product people, certified product managers.
You won't, never. It's funny, but I have challenges like that quite often, because, for example, people always ask me, why is there no software tool that helps me to answer the questions of the product management wheel? And it would be easy, given the state of AI, for me to create such a tool, right? Not a no-brainer, basically. But and I have done it. I have a basic version of it. I tested it with some users. But what I observed is then they tend to check the boxes. They don't go in proper reflection mode. So there's nothing better than a printed out PDF version of the product management wheel to get people in the reflection mode about their own career and where they're currently at and what they want to learn. And then they need the handwritten notes, because once they have the handwritten notes, it's more likely for their brain to remind that they want to learn this particular thing. So the tool, it's not a technological problem that this tool is not available. It's really by design that I have, and I might change my mind in the future, by the way. But so far, I think it's better to have a PDF printed to assess yourself and to reflect on your current capabilities than to a tool where you just like ding da ding ding checkbox ding da ding ding done, and then you get a nice wheel and then you do nothing about it. So that's not so. Yeah, I have these conversations. Yeah.
So for me, like most often, even when we are interviewing candidates, it is with a list of certifications that have a special section on their CVs or resumes. And it's usually, I say that can this many months of training equals to many years of experience. It's never equal. It's always a starting or a supporting thing, but you cannot exchange one to another, I think.
Yeah, for me, I have to say, sometimes I'm interviewing for clients on clients' behalf, especially for product leadership roles, because that's high stakes roles. And sometimes they want me to do a bit of due diligence in the background. And yeah, to me, it's more helpful, again, coming back to this idea of network and community. So I try to understand what ideas they have been exposed to. So what the thought leaders they liked, what are thought leaders they disagree with or strongly disagree with. I think that's another beautiful thing. So if they tell me I basically hate whatever, I don't know, Jeff Gotthelf writes, that's an interesting conversation to have them to say like, oh, interesting. What actually creates that reaction in you? And then what networks, for example, have they heard of a product tank? Because I find it super irritating if you're working in product and have never heard of it. It's perfectly fine if you never attended because it's maybe far away from you, or but then you could still be part of the Slack group or something like that. So yeah, I tried to do a bit more is picking up signals of the network that they surrounded themselves with and the learning resources that they used. And I'm perfectly fine if they disagree with some of the body of product knowledge. I actually like that. I think there's nothing worse than a product person that agrees with basically everything they read on the books. We want them to have strong opinions, loosely hold maybe, but strong opinions. Yeah, so I think that's another important thing to interview for, on top of the, not even on, I'm not actually not even looking at the certificates. I couldn't care less.
Absolutely.
No, I should admit.
Yes.
The moment I also see a certification that is like someone have spent less than 2 weeks, then I would really ask many more questions and deep dive into 5 whys or 5 Is or 5 whats and all that. So yeah.
But sorry to put you on the spot here, Petra, but what is the one thing, when you interview these product leaders, what is that one trait that you're looking for when you're doing due diligence or during your interviews?
So just again, terminology, when I say product leaders, I mean people running the product organization. I know that some people say product leaders as for product managers. That's not me. So I use product leaders for people running the product organization. And so they're directly line managing product managers. At least that's my definition, just that the audience knows. Yeah, it really depends. So first of all, we would need to look at the organization and the product maturity. And the question is always, do we hire for cultural fit right now because we need a more homogeneous leadership group, or do we hire for cultural add? So do we want to change our product culture and we therefore hire somebody from the culture that we're trying to get? So that's always the first thing that I try to understand. And then it is subject matter expertise, frankly speaking, is not often a problem because I think that's the easiest part to be learned. And that is the easiest part to get exposed to when you join a company. So let's say you want to hire a product lead in a container shipping company, then there is a lot of container shipping subject matter expertise in the organization already. So it's not that we need to make sure that our product leaders are the best in class subject matter experts in the topic of container shipping. But what we need to make sure that they personally already have a system in place for how they would onboard themselves, what are the questions that they would be asking. And then I always interview around this topic of alignment and directional clarity. So I always want to understand how would they make sure that in 6 to 9 months from now, there is a very clear understanding where they want the product organization to be headed. What are the meaningful problems to solve, the big problems to solve? So basically, sometimes they need to create a product strategy from scratch. Sometimes they just need to get it off the shelf and then dust it a bit or stuff like that. But I know that this product that they are having is directional clarity, and then it really depends how big the org is, and but that's always, and that you can interview for that and see, like, is there a lot of clarity in how they respond to questions? Are they having, for example, for me, product leadership is always product and then people and then the ways of working / process. And then I can arrange everything under that umbrella. And the question is always, have they something like that, some internal framework they would use when they're onboarding on the job? Yeah.
I think now Amit is going to appear in a lot of interviews.
This is cool, Petra. And it's always nice to know about how interviewers, or bar raisers as Amazon calls them,
yeah,
they think about product leaders. So our audience would appreciate that. I just wanted to ask a bit more about
please.
The product communities dealt with this whole communities of practice. How do we make them successful? Because there are competing priorities within product organization. There are APMs who want to grow up, there are PMs who want to learn fast, and then there are product leaders who want to impart knowledge or their version of best practices.
Yeah.
So what are these pitfalls? What are the signs do you see? Some of those.
Yeah, budgets and learning headlines. That's the two keywords here. So the learning headlines are, let me briefly double click on that keyword. So a learning headline is something that results from the leadership people having their strong definition of what good looks like, and then having the coaching session so that everybody knows, okay, my learning headline for the next 4 months is getting better at prioritization, because from my sessions, I know I could up my game here on prioritization, right? So as soon as everybody has such a learning headline, you could see pattern, because then it's easy to spot there are 5 people having prioritization as their learning headline. So there could be a to-do for the community to think about what would be great resources, for example, to read, or a conference to go, or whatever it actually is. Communities are all about empowering the people to do the work. So we don't want to do this work for them. We help them to have their learning headlines, and then we tell them, go invest in yourself, go find allies, go find your peers that have similar challenges. And then it's still fine for me as a leadership person if they come back and say, like, hey, Petra, we don't do this together because one learns from a conference, the other one wants to go to certificate class, and I just want to read a book. And then we again meet 3 months down the line to see what worked best or something like that. And I think this is the important part where a lot of leadership people kill momentum by then enforcing their own idea how things have to unfold on the people. And then you basically kill the entire community vibe. So let people do their thing. And the budget is the other thing. So you need to provide a budget and resources to a community of practice. And that can be just in the regard of time. So you can allow so maybe there is no money budget laying around in your organization. That's fine. But then make sure that the people understand, hey, there's value in you doing community work and personal development. And therefore it's fine if you dedicate 1 hour a week, make it whatever number. I don't care. If it's less than half an hour a week, it's maybe not even worth talking about it. If it's more than 3 hours a week, it's maybe too much, but somewhere there. Tell people that it's really something you would encourage them to do, and always have a loop. So we want people to consume new content, and then we want them to apply that in their daily life. That's another important thing. Make sure that learning is never detached from what they currently do. So if they need to learn something about AI, then only if they are working in a team that can at least apply some of the things. Otherwise, it's not worth the investment, I'd say, from a company perspective. And then I want them to be able to reflect on how the learning went. Was it helpful to go to that course? Was it helpful to read that book? That's the reflect part important. And the last bit is giving back to the community, sharing what they learned. And that's the sharing part. And I think the whole cycle is important. And that's something, as a leadership person, again, I make sure that they go through the entire cycle, because the sharing part, sharing back with the community, this is what helps the people to understand, oh, I've really improved a thing. I can talk about this framework now. I use the framework. I can talk about its benefits and its shortcomings and why it was helpful or why it was not. And that helps people to experience mastery. And that is what helps people to see, okay, in this organization, I'm actually learning stuff. So that's a good place to be. I continue to learn stuff. It's a nice experience, and I continue to share back because that helps my colleagues. And so we're all growing together. I think that's the important part. So having these learning headlines and see if there are clusters is an important thing. And then being really explicit about the time budget, or some companies build, I don't know, a company library. That's not super expensive. Or you can do watch parties and watch all the product at heart videos or something like that. Super inexpensive, but maybe a nice community event, right? So I'm not saying you need a big budget, but you need a time budget at least for people to spend on your community work. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm quite inspired by how you have structured this. And if I may, so if your coaching is a Swiss Army knife, okay, so because you said wheel, and then so which blade gets the most action? Like for which product leaders?
Yeah, that is really hard to tell, because you would need to ask my clients where that actually, and the thing is, it so much depends on company maturity and product maturity, because a product leader in the startups, different struggles than a product leader in a 38,000 corporate. And I see them all. And the same applies for product maturity. So I have sometimes clients that are in the midst of an agile transformation and have heard of product being a thing, marketing. That's obviously an entirely different game than a product first organization that does it natively since the beginning of their organization. I think that the biggest impact that I have is on product leaders, so people in a product leadership position that have no formal product background. So people that are coming from the business basically and that realize, oh my God, product management, it's a thing. So it's an entire craft. And then they take a shortcut via my coaching to get them on speed with all the product stuff. And that's most of the fun sessions for me, because it's oftentimes so skilled and smart people, and they just have not yet been exposed to the product world. And as soon as you kind of expose them to it, for them it really clicks and you can see them change gears really quickly. So I think there is the biggest lever, is if product leaders from a business perspective background realizing, oh, I have to learn a lot on the product side, and are then brave enough to admit this, and are then brave enough to reach out to a coach and ask for help. I think that's the biggest gain one could have with a few coaching sessions. I see them do wonders.
Absolutely. I think in any conversations that we have nowadays, right? Without the term AI, it looks incomplete.
Yes.
With all the coaching, with all this upskilling that's happening, what do you think that which skills should product leaders should develop in today's world of AI to stay relevant, to stay, I must say, useful, or to be coachable, or however you want to call it?
Oh yeah, that's such a broad field as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still, I would love it not to be, but it's still such a niche and bubble topic, right? All of us are obviously talking about AI for ages, it feels. But when I'm talking to the product leaders in product leadership roles, I hardly see AI having an impact on their roadmaps, which I find shocking. So I have so many conversations, and even networking conversations at events. So not only with my clients, everybody's like, yeah, I need to wrap my head around it at some times. But frankly speaking, there's so many fires that I'm currently have to fight. So I leave the AI stuff for later. And I think it has never been more dangerous than now. It never has been more likely to get out of business because of your competition outcompeting you performance-wise, if they jump on the AI train and leverage some of the advantages that AI may have. And I'm shocked. I'm just about to compile my newsletter again. I write a quarterly newsletter, and I try to go heavy on practical AI stuff if possible, because I think the product leaders just need to start playing with it. And it's shocking how many conversations I have where people say like, yeah, I do the occasional ChatGPT writing exercise, but I'm not using it to bigger extent than that. And I think product leaders by now should have played with various tools, and the no-code, low-code stuff is not even something that they all played with. And now with AI, that game changes entirely as well. So again, all of us are playing with it in real life, are playing all the product leaders with it. Not sure, is it having an impact on, and don't get me wrong, I have a few coaches that already 9 months ago said like, I have to ditch my entire roadmap. It all doesn't make sense anymore. We need to come up with an entire new strategy. AI is changing the game tremendously. So it's not that they're not there. And I hear a lot of but it's a lot of putting lipstick on the pig in all the teams, right? Let's face it. So sometimes if I assess teams and I'm asked like, okay, but what is this AI thing on your roadmap? Then everybody's like, we just put it there. We basically don't do a thing with AI. But yeah, and that's wild. I find it wild because it has, there are big downsides of it. I see all the Black Mirror aspects of it happening. So that's another reason why I want everybody to get involved, in more competent people being able to have the moral and ethical conversations that we need around AI. And that's another reason why I find it shocking that that people are not using it, playing it a bit more, despite the occasional, I don't know, I want to plan my camping trip with it. That's just an example that I heard the other day. That's all that this product leadership person was doing so far with AI, planning their personal camping trip. And that was, you need to get involved. Satya.
Is it like the cool video game these days, which everyone has to play?
Yeah, but then they're buying it. And then they're not playing it.
I have a counter question in a way, is what is stopping them to not use AI? Is it what is the emotional factor or a behavioral factor that's stopping them to use it?
Yeah, I think that it's a bit of a personality topic here. So first of all, I think to start seeing the disruptive potential that AI might be having, you need to start to play with it. So first of all, you have to get them over this, hey, you really need to try certain use cases and certain things, then you might see the potential. And it gets increasingly harder to do so as long as everybody was talking about Claude and ChatGPT and written communication. I think it was easy for people to try. Now that we talk about agentic AI and AI agents and all these kind of things, it's harder for people. So the hurdles is bigger to start using it. A lot of product leaders don't consider themselves technical people. So just creating a lovable account and try out these stuff is harder for them. And then let's face it, people do what people are rewarded for. And a lot of senior executives haven't even started to wrap their head around AI, other than hearing about AI being a thing on the golf court or in a kite surfing holiday or whatever senior executives do. But that's basically, so it's still just really high level conversations about AI. Yeah, hopefully that changes over the years. I think it's currently a bit of a root cause movement where the engineers start using it, the design people start using it a bit more, the product people push it, and then hopefully leadership will follow at some point in time just because they have to. Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about this leaderships and they're doing a lot of AI stuff. Does that mean that there's some success there, or what does success would look like to a product leader today?
Say it again. I haven't understood it correctly. The question.
What would success look like to a product leader in this AI environment?
Yeah. So that already is a hard question to ask because all of us know in well-run organizations, it would be rather clear what the current strategy is, and AI would just be a technology they would leverage to get to that future state of the organization, of the business. So ideally, and that's how I would always picture it, if, and I really love Martin Erickson's decision stack. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it is really this kind of, okay, you have a vision, you have a company vision, a company strategy. At some point, you derive your product vision and product strategy from those, inheriting the good parts. So should AI have an impact on this highest level of product strategy? Hopefully not. You don't even have to put it unless a board member or VC company wants to see it, because then maybe, yes, it's a good marketing thing to put it there. But still, I think it's more a technology that you use to kind of create that behavior change at the user side or help this new target group to leverage the value that you want to offer them. So I would try to not talk about AI too much on the really high level of your product strategy, the directional clarity. So these are the opportunities we're saying yes to, and these are the opportunities we're saying no to. That's hopefully AI and technology agnostic. But then, of course, if you then ask the question, okay, but how will we deliver this to our users? How do we will make sure that we realize this value for our business? Then there might be AI in the mix at some point in time, right? And that's the first thing I would love product leaders to understand. It does not have to be necessarily painted all over your product strategy, but it changes so much. It shortens the learning cycle with your teams. Discoveries can be run very differently if the teams are leveraging AI in the discovery process. And again, there's so much anti-patterns for doing that. There's so much things you should not be doing, but still AI can really be helpful to sort data, quantitative data, for example. Would I use AI heavily in qualitative data analysis? Maybe not, without at least human checkpoints and stuff like that. But that's things I think leaders need to understand. So what parts of our process could be sped up by AI? Is it the delivery part? Is it the discovery part? Is it the product itself? A lot of my clients are working on internal software. So their entire teams working on software for their colleagues to optimize processes. I'm basically shocked that all of them are still working on their roadmaps, because I think it's internal processes, right? You can map them, you can optimize them, you own these processes, and then AI can automate these processes to some extent or create a lot of the data. And people just need to check in every once in a while, acceptance gates and stuff like that. So if I would be heading a product organization that mainly helps the rest of the org to deliver the value. So internal products, I would basically drop whatever we have and go all in on AI discovery to see what we could do there. And some of my clients have done that, seeing the delivery time is so much shorter for these internal products than one would think. So yeah, so that are the things that product leaders should be. So really think about discovery speed, delivery speed, and then the product and what it changes to in your product and where you can leverage it on the tech side.
I like what you talk about discovery speed, and the other person, we talk a lot about in Product Tank is Teresa Torres.
Yeah.
And her continuous discovery mode. So, amazing concepts, and that have changed the way product management is done.
Yeah,
and it has helped mature it.
Yeah, and Teresa right now is heavily experimenting with AI in discovery settings. So I think she publishes each day on LinkedIn what she learned, because she does all this testing that nobody of us has time for. So is AI good in running a user interview? Yes, no. In what regards? Should we use it for running user interviews? If yes, what are the safety measures that need to be in place and all these kind of things? So she's currently pushing the AI in discovery field to some extent. So yeah.
Satya, wouldn't it be nice to talk to Teresa?
Yeah, ask her.
Yeah.
Of course. We would love to invite her.
Yeah, do so. I don't know what her podcast policy is right now, but I'm happy to ping her.
Okay, I think we're almost at the end of this conversation. Petra, I hope you liked it. For our listeners who want to dive deeper into Petra's work, grab a copy of Strong Product People and Strong Product Communities. We spoke a lot today about communities of practice. These two are the most practical books out there for anyone building great product teams. Or maybe you could inherit Product at Heart, happening each year in Hamburg.
Yeah, exactly. It's always in June so far. And people still can. We have a video archive in our footer on the website, so you still can go revisit some of the old videos. That's free for sure.
Thank you so much, Petra. It's been amazing. And thank you for sharing wisdom and so many examples that we can really apply in our work.
Of course. A really fun conversation to have.
And for our listeners, thank you so much for listening to us. Do provide feedback in the comment section or reach out to us on LinkedIn and keep building what matters.